Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be talking about how the Call of Duty World at War Zombies map Shi No Numa changed Zombies map level design forever, and I'm going to go into details about how it did that, all the things it does to accomplish a more outdoor open environment rather than the more claustrophobic closed in environments we've seen in the previous two maps of Nocturne, Toten, and Ferucht. The first thing to talk about with Shi No Numa is that it's the first map with outdoor areas. This is a huge change for zombies, and it's really important because, of course, we're going to be getting into it, but spatial economy is a huge part of zombies. How much floor space each room has relative to the other rooms and how they're interconnected is all extremely important for how the player interacts with the map. So my general thesis for this video is the map works because it turns zombies from a claustrophobic siege into an open survival space, which none of the previous zombies maps were doing. So the people at Activision were definitely experimenting with something that now we see in almost all the zombies maps: more open floor plans, outdoor areas, etc. So we're mainly going to be talking about things like space, atmosphere, and navigation from a design perspective. The first thing I noticed when I spawned into the game was, of course, the spawn room's design. The interior is lit with an orange light, like lanterns and flames, and this is kind of a contrast from Ferucht, which actually had the opposite. There was orange light coming from the outside, from like a forest fire, and the interior was kind of dark and gloomy. And in this map, it's the opposite. The outdoor areas are dark and gloomy, have kind of a green haze to them because it's got that tropical thing going on. Then, of course, something I'm noticing in these later iterations of zombies maps is the starting room always seems to have a horror element or a horror set piece scene. And in the Shi No Numa starting area, there's a very clear hanging paratrooper from the ceiling, and he's hanging from an opening in the roof. These horror elements really set the tone for the whole map. I think the starting room is the most important room in a zombies map because it sets the tone, the spatial atmosphere, the soundscape, the lighting, everything. It's the player's first impression. And so I think that's why they have these dramatic horror scenes like they had in Ferucht. They have it in this one also. Another thing I noticed about the spawn room is that there are openings in the roof and in the floor, which help the space feel more open, even though the player can't actually go to these spaces. It helps with just spatial atmosphere. There's also some really cool little details. There's blood everywhere, of course, adding to the horror elements, telling the player, hey, this place is not a happy place. There's little maggots on the ground, which I never noticed before in a blood pool, which is, of course, very creepy and disgusting, but very nice. The orange lanterns are scattered around the opening area, which I like a lot. And, of course, there's rubble everywhere, showing the destruction. First thing I noticed in the intro area is it shows you two doors that you can open. And basically, it's a false choice. Like, both doors open to the same room downstairs. I thought that was kind of strange. Very different from Ferucht, where there really was kind of no choice in progression. You either spawn on one side of the map or the other, and there's really only one way forward. You don't get to choose. So this is the first zombie map where the choice seems more significant. Nocturne and Toten also had two doors, and honestly, that door choice was more significant because it opened to different parts of the map with different guns, different things. One door leads to the mystery box, yada yada. But in this one, it gives you the mystery box right in this intro area, which I thought was super cool. Then as I get outside, I notice the central building has a very distinct silhouette. It has this round roof. It's got this military installation set up. The setting is in Japan, so the architecture reflects that, which is really nice contrast between the map set in Germany, and maybe the maps set in America that come later. Basically, it is the central landmark for the whole map. So the map goes out from this central hub. There's 4 quadrants, so the map almost looks like a cross shape. So the central area where the player spawns has to be visually distinct, so they can immediately identify, oh, that's the central building. So it's distinct by shape. It's the biggest building on the map. It's distinct by size, and then there's a number of other things. Lighting is different. The audio atmosphere is different. We're going to get into the audio soundscapes of this map in a bit, how each quadrant feels like it has its own soundscape identity. I really like that. It just helps the player navigate and know where they are almost subconsciously. No player is going to say, oh, the monkey sounds are over here in the storage room or whatever, and then there's the bird sounds over here. They're just, I think it's a subconscious just helping the player understand that, oh, this is a different place than that other place, and it helps them navigate. The map is extremely easy to navigate. You just keep walking, you'll always get to a landmark, be it each 4 quadrant has its own identity, as literally being like serving different purposes for this Japanese military base. So moving on, the outdoor expansion areas. This is the first major exterior zombie space that we've seen in the maps we've been looking at. And it's perfect. It's a tropical swamp setting. It's almost got a graveyard horror elements to it, right? We've got all kinds of nature foliage going on, bamboo, grass, wood, and of course, the materials are very different from the previous map. Sheet metal, wood, tropical stuff. I think it works really well. And of course it works beautifully with the sound effects. The map would be so different without the soundscapes and the sound effects. I'm gonna be getting into that a little later in the video. Comparing this to the donut layout of Ferukt, it almost feels like the same philosophy where the center of the map has a set piece or a very identifiable thing to see for the player to orient themselves. So in Ferukt, there was this fountain in the center of the donut-shaped map. But in this one, the actual starting room is that central element, or starting building, I should say, because it has 2 rooms to it, basically. And I really just like the contrast between those, the first floor and the second floor, how each room and each space has its own identity. It feels different based on just the verticality of it. And that's also in the outdoor areas. The outdoor areas, each little stretch of outdoor space that connects the central spawn room to the kind of orbiting outer areas like the storage room, the medical hut, fishing hut, comm room, whatever. Those are the 4. They have like, it looks like a natural environment, and that's hard to do. I have a problem in my game with doing things like that, like natural dirt, peaks and valleys, that kind of thing. The next thing I noticed that is absolutely insane is the unique roof shapes of these quadrant buildings. So in the edge of each quadrant is a building. So storage hut, medical hut, fishing hut, comm room, and they all have their own distinct look and props and sounds going on. But also the actual just geometry and shape of the buildings themselves is each one is unique. And that's brilliant because the player can immediately, just from seeing, know, oh, I'm over here. They may not even know the name. Oh, that's the storage hut, even though there are signifiers for that. It just adds such a layer of just navigational fidelity to the map. It helps the player know where they are or where they should be at any time, and it's just a very good design. And it didn't cost the designers much to do this, right? Oh, each building has its own shape. Imagine if each building was completely identical, the same soundscape. It would not be good at all. Like, that would just be confusing to players. I think that's the biggest thing about Zombies maps, is because it's a non-linear experience, there's a way more chance for the player to get lost. And so we want to do everything in our power to help them navigate using tools like every single room having landmarks. Okay, like unique colors, shapes, sounds, whatever you can think of to help each area feel different than the other areas. Different props. Like, for example, the comm room is very distinct from all the other buildings in the quadrants because it has all this electrical equipment and radio equipment, and none of that is noticed anywhere else on the map. I love that so much about this map. The spatial economy in zombies is the most important aspect of zombies, I think, besides the ammo economy and the points economy. But the points economy is, in fact, linked to the spatial economy. Your points could get you a more powerful gun or get you more square footage to survive. Okay? So we've got a beautiful contrast. This is why I love outdoor areas in zombies maps, is because it just lends itself so much to contrast between environments, right? For lighting and space. Interior areas lend themselves to darker, dimmer lighting and more cramped spaces. Outdoor areas lend themselves to more ambient light, brighter, more visibility, and more space for the player to move around. I love that so much. You've also got contrast with high ground, low ground for the outdoor areas that I'm not seeing in the other maps. I really like that a lot. Well, mainly because they didn't have other outdoor areas. Each outdoor areas feels, instead of just like a tunnel going straight to the building, it feels like it has lanes. Like there's a high ground, a low ground. Some of them have branching paths. I just love that. And these outdoor areas introduce something that I love about this map, and that is the swamp water areas. Like in the outdoor areas, there's water zones, and if the player walks in them, their movement speed is slowed down. But the zombies are not slowed down. This is a brilliant thing to solve a design dilemma. How do you have a nice big open outdoor space but still keep that spatial economy tight so that the player never feels like they have too much space to move around? Well, you have a big open outdoor space, but you make sure that certain parts of that outdoor space bring some major disadvantages if you walk through them, like moving slowly. Player movement, the movement economy is most notable in this game, mainly because of that slowing down with the water. And also, if you pick up like big guns like the MG42, your movement speed is slowed. So it's like, oh, do you want this more powerful gun or are you going to get slowed down? That's a meaningful choice right there. I love that so much. There's a lot more movement freedom in this map compared to other maps. I just like that so much. And just when it comes to the navigation design guiding the player, it's mainly through lanterns and lighting, I'm noticing. Basically, we got the first time this map is using the beam of light for the mystery box, and that's just a very elegant signifier showing, hey, the box is over here. And we take that for granted nowadays as modern zombies players, but I really like that just for literally telling the player, hey, come over here. I love that. We've got the strong area silhouettes helping navigate the player, and then the soundscapes are different for each area, each quadrant of the map. Even the center has this kind of haunting ambience. And yeah, this is pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. So just the design takeaways are Shi No Numa is way less claustrophobic than Ferucht and Nocturne Totem, but it's adding more of these forgiving open spaces, but it brings also this way stronger map readability and this new innovation of the slowing the player down with the water, where you get the advantages of having a big open ambient space, outdoor space, nature, tropical, having all the tropical horror elements we know and love, and still having that tight spatial economy, maintaining that tight spatial economy, which is what Zombies thrives on. You want the player to sweat a little bit. So it's really about survival through movement more than just hold out defense in this new map. And yeah, in conclusion, Shi No Numa is expanding on the design language of zombies in a way that I'm really happy to see as we continue these deep dives into the classic maps. It proves outdoor spaces can still feel scary and challenging, even though they're way more open. And yeah, my final thing is that when you are playing a zombies map or analyzing a zombies map or even designing a zombies map, if you're like me and designing a zombies-like game, FPS survival game, it's that space is a survival resource. The literal feet per square, whatever, I don't know, the square footage is a resource, because in zombies we think of ammo and points as the only resource, but that's not true. The actual space you have to run around in is a resource. And so that's my conclusion. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. I'm trying to do something a little different. This video is way more structured than my usual videos. I'm trying to up the production value a little bit. And I think this video went really well. So I'm really glad you guys joined me for this. There's more to talk about with Shi No Numa. A lot more to talk about. I plan on making 2 more videos like this one, and then probably a full recap video that's just titled Everything I Learned About Shi No Numa. And so I want to spend a lot of time on this map. It's doing so many cool things. There's way more to talk about mechanically speaking, and just kinesthetic design, everything. But I wanted to just focus on the space and the layout design, because that's such an important part of zombies. And now a time for our video sponsor. If you like classic Call of Duty Zombies, then you're probably going to love my game, Doomsday Sector. It's a first-person shooter wave survival game just like Zombies, and it takes a lot of the principles we've been talking about and implements them into a new experience. There's a whole upgrade system, progression system. There's a story that is really, I'm really happy with the story. I think it's meaningful, powerful, beautiful even, I would say. So go ahead and check that out. Link in the description. Go ahead and wish list it. It's going to come out in about a year. I'm going to really spend my time on that game. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you all in the next analysis. Goodbye.